Hi, Sandy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the A.D.K channel. We are here today. We are reviewing the new album by Suicide Silence. Remember, you must die. I think that's a succinct sort of statement, is it? Remember, you must die. Everyone knows you're going to bloody die, aren't you? It's not something you're going to get escape from. Remember, you must die. But okay, stupid bloody album title. Anyway, sorry, it is. It's
Great start.
yeah. I'm in a positive.
This is obviously a daily reminder of that fact, though.
Yeah.
Every time you pull the CD out off your shelf,
It's a cheery album, isn't it? Right, okay, let's get into it. I'm going to kick off first on this one, and then because I'm going to let Kirk. I think Kirk, you can go last on this one because you've done a bit more of an in-depth review for the obviously Screen Blast repeat. So I'm going with what Deathcore is probably some sort of genre that I would reference them as, and this is someone who, as someone like myself who has no freaking clue what genre this would sit in, I'm just going to whack Deathcore together and say that's what I think it is.
Correct.
The other thing I have a slight issue for me doing these sort of album reviews of bands like Suicide Silence and Beyond Extinction is I can't tell if it's within that genre, is it a good example of a band or an album within a genre? So when you talk about thrash, you can go, oh, Exodus, or Metallica's Master of Puppets, or Megadeth's Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. Both thrash albums, but of completely different qualities and styles and genres. But I wouldn't, if you weren't a big thrash fan, you probably wouldn't know the massive difference of how good they are in comparison within almost like a scale chart of how they're referenced and how they're felt about. And that's what I sit down when I listen to things like Deathcore. To me, it sounded like a great Deathcore album, but I wouldn't be able to tell anyone like, oh, this is the ultimate Deathcore album. This is one of the best Deathcore albums that's ever come out, sort of thing. I couldn't be able to give you that. So I'm not going to go down that route. I'm just going to tell you from a point of view of if you liked the last album that came out by them, which was the 2017 album.
2020 album, sorry. Become the Hunter.
Become the Hunter.
Yeah, 2020. 2000.
Oh, no, yeah, sorry. So I did have a reference to the 2017 in here as well. So if you like the 2020 album, it's very, very similar. I went back and I listened to the 2020 album, and it sounds almost exactly the same in my opinion. Now, someone who's into Deathcore might go, oh no, there's massive differences, there's massive changes. To me, it sounded exactly the same to the 2020 album. It could have been almost a double album release, is how close that sounded to me. It's very different to their 2017 style. The 2017 style, when I listened back to that album, the self-proclaimed Suicide Silence album, I didn't even think it was the same band when I went back to have a listen to that. So, yeah, I thought it was very good. As a general, tracks I liked off the album, Dying Life, The Third Death, Altar of Self, and Fucked for Life, I thought was a great one. Fucked for Life, it had a real dirty, old school, obituary-style riff opener. I loved that. I liked that kind of real chugginess riff and just real visceral guitar tone. I thought was great. My one big bugbear is the starting track. Remember, what's the point of it? It's an instrumental, whatever, couple of minutes opener. Just tack it on to the first song then, because who's going to listen to an instrumental opener on an album on its own? What purpose does it serve? If it's a lead into the next song, just put it on with the next song, and then it's the full song. And unfortunately, that's also happens on the next album, which we're going to talk about later. They do exactly the same bloody thing. And I kind of got it back in the day, but nowadays I'm kind of like, who's going to listen to that track on Spotify as a stream? Going, oh, I want to listen to that 2-minute opener. No one's going to do it. Whack it on with the actual song. Make it part of something. But there you go. That's all I'm going to say about it. But generally, good solid track of Deathcore. But I couldn't tell you as far as where it sits in there within its genres. But I did enjoy the album. Andy?
Yeah, like you, Dave. I'm not a massive Deathcore fan, and I couldn't say to somebody, "Oh yeah, this is a good example." But from what I do know and from listening to this album, I would say it is. Yeah, really, I really enjoyed it as well. There's lots of elements that this band put into their songs, and they don't put all those elements in every single song. And I'll just go through a few of them that I picked out. The first one in particular, has far too many of the pinch harmonics, which I'm not a huge fan of. It does work in some genres and some bands. The boys we saw Friday night, for example, Lowdown,
Yeah.
sort of that sort of stoner southern doom, thrown into those songs, it works really well. I don't like it in this particular style. They've also got the breakdowns. There's only one solo which I picked out, which is quite good as well. Not being a sort of guitar virtuoso fan and a fan of sort of solos in songs. There's only one which is featured. I mean, you mentioned the obituary style intro. I've got a sort of Cannibal Corpse style exit part of the song for Capable of Violence, which sounds very much like a Cannibal Corpse title. Another thing that I wasn't particularly a fan of, I don't know if you picked up on this, on certain songs, it naturally ends, but the time bar at the bottom, there's like a minute or two left. You think, what's going on here? And there's like what I'd describe as a superfluous sort of outro, unnecessary sort of, bit of sample, a bit of instrumental part, which kind of sort of detracted from the song before, and then it doesn't even lead into the next one. So that happened sort of 3 or 4 times throughout. You mentioned Altar of Self, Dave, which I think was like the lead single, which I had heard before on Spotify, and there's a breakdown in that where it just goes so slow, and I thought, what, this is amazing. It almost like stops. It's so slow, that sort of breakdown, and the vocals just go into this hellish cavern of sound, so low, so deep, really, really good. I'm sorry, another criticism. I really did enjoy this album. Another criticism, it did seem to be go on too long. I mean, I've made sort of comprehensive notes and comments about the first sort of 9 songs. We get to the last 3. I'd either got bored by that point, or they, didn't bring anything to the album. They're like sort of stuck on the end, just complete the album recording session, and again maybe a little unnecessary. Although the last song, Full Void, has got a really good head nodding, chuggy open riffs, open chord riffs, and it just sort of fades out. And I thought that's a great way to finish the album. But then it goes into another one of them unnecessary sort of outros. But really, really enjoyed it. It's exactly what I expected from this band, even though I'm not a massive fan or know too much about them. But I'll close there. But sort of my final comment leading to Kirk, and he can perhaps answer it. There was a statement on the bio that we received saying this is Suicide Silence being back to being Suicide Silence after some years away or something like that. So perhaps you can enlighten us there. Did they sort of go through a bit of a style change or a lineup change, or have some personnel problems? Perhaps you can tell us about that, Kurt. But yeah, overall, really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I'll pick up on that point then. Yeah, the tragic event in this band is the death of the former vocalist Mitch Lucker. I believe it was 2011. It was in a motorcycle accident, and he really was the voice and face of the band, and he was very charismatic. In terms of them rediscovering their identity, yeah, Dave touched upon it. In 2017, their self-titled album probably was a new metal album. They brought in Ross Robinson to produce it, and the fans hated it to the point where there was a petition on change.org to have the record company withdraw the album from public consumption.
Yeah.
The lead single to that, people despised it. So it shows that they do have a passionate following, this band. Let's put them in the context. Really, 2007, their debut album, The Cleansing, that is a big hitter in deathcore. This is when deathcore starts to branch away from metalcore, because there was a feeling that genre was going too soft. They were using the Cro-Mags influence, and then when the next wave came of metalcore, like Killswitch Engage, bands started copying that rather than anything that was hardcore, and started adding their own pop choruses in. And the deathcore boys really reacted against that and thought, no, we're going to listen to Suffocation, Morbid Angel, we're going to bring that into the music, grindcore, Cannibal Corpse as well. So is what they're aiming for here. Along with Despised Icon, Whitechapel, and Carnifex, these are, if there was a big 4 of deathcore, these would be in it, certainly. So the fans are definitely going to enjoy this. Dave, I agree that it does sound similar to the last album, which saved their career, really, didn't it? Because that 2017 album, they just didn't know what they wanted to do. They were on record.
I actually really like the 2017 album personally. I
Yeah,
really
do you know,
liked it.
it's not as bad as people make out, is it?
It
When
does
I
sound
was
like
reading it, was like, it's not tragic.
it's the sort of, if this is the annoying thing, is if I got into the band at the 2017, I went, bloody hell, I really like this album. This is great. I'd be like, what the hell have you done to my band? This is awful. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's not as bad as people think, is it? I mean, if you think about it, another thing that you can either celebrate or you can blame them for, I think this was the band that started the nu metal revival with that 2011 album, because they are an extreme metal band, and then that third album comes out and you're thinking, I can hear Born, I can hear Deftones in this. Let's be honest, that was a dirty word in 2011, wasn't it? Our term, nu metal. So in my case, I'll probably blame them for that revivalism. But that leads me on to what I want to say about this album. I think the first half is excellent. I agree with you, Andy. The last three tracks are almost filler type, aren't they? They don't need to be there. However, I've got to say, track number 2, You Must Die. That is basically like Pig Destroyer covering Slipknot. There's still the one nu metal influence is Slipknot, isn't it, on this? And even when you go to that song Capable of Violence, that is basically like a grindcore version of Slipknot. The production is so raw, especially those guitars. When you listen to that first one, the vocalist Eddie Hamida, you're thinking he's seeing red, but so are the band, and the red that they're seeing. The dashboard in the studio when you're recording it and the decibel levels are too high. They've deliberately done it like that so it gives it that extra violent punch. The syncopation at the beginning is just, it's like a body blows, isn't it, from a heavyweight boxer in quick succession. There's not many guitar solos on this. I think they really just want this to be 35 minutes, 40 minutes of a punch in the face on every song, and it didn't need, this album, one of its strengths, it didn't need any variation, actually, did it? You didn't want like an experimental drum and bass track in there, or a ballad, which you never get in deathcore anyway. So I think it really achieved its purpose. But if they saved the career on the last album, on this one, they're just rebuilding, aren't they? Rebuilding that relationship with the fans. Also rebuilding their relationship with extreme metal, because this band, if they didn't have, when they started out, a good looking singer, people were like, yeah, this is extreme, this is grindcore, it's brutal death metal. Because they were young, and some of them are obviously going to get women, people, the old school, like, oh, posers. It's like, have you heard the fucking music? This is never going to get on the radio. Like they have pig squeals and blast beats in there. The blast beats, Dave, you thought that these were everywhere in the album. To me, I thought they used them sparingly.
For me, it was everywhere, mainly because I really, really hate blast beats. They ruin the groove of a song. So, and there were some great groove elements in this. There were certain points where I was like, yeah, okay, they're getting into this groove. Like, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, stop doing that. You're just fucking up my groove. I'm like, I'm getting into the groove. Oh, okay, they're off again.
That's the death metal influence.
I can't stand blast beats. They just ruin tracks.
They have got groove, though, haven't they? You're right.
They have got a lot of groove. I like the groove.
For Life, they're clearly... I know that the guitar player, the lead guitar player, is friends with Rob Flynn. They've clearly been listening to Burn My Eyes, that song. That intro, even the way they introduce the riff when the drums come in, just reminds me of Machine Head. But they then put a layer of death metal intensity on it and go for the really extreme vocals. To a question, what did you think of the vocals on this record?
It's typical of deathcore. They were good, excellent. Suited the style, suited the band.
Yeah,
he's an excellent vocalist in his genre. I mean, I'm sure. I don't know how these things are put together, but I'm sure there's effects and sort of studio tricks to make it sound as brutal as it is. But it's not all naturally from this chap's throat and lungs. But yeah, vocals are great.
Yeah, there's a lot of urgency in there, isn't it? This is what separates Suicide Silence from that brutal death metal genre where it's low gutturals and formulaic, and you've got double kick drums that just sound like typewriters and downward palm muting. There's a lot of urgency in this, isn't there? And if people are seeing this as like a lighter version of brutal death metal, again, you need to have your head examined. This is fucking heavy stuff. It's just 10 times better than slam and brutal death metal, in my opinion. And deathcore has the best vocalists in extreme metal. The standard is very high. Like when you listen to Whitechapel, for example, Lorna Shore, Suicide Silence, I think Eddie Hamida, I keep using that word urgency. You can hear the clarity in there, but it's like he's got something to prove, and that really came through for me. I think it's an excellent vocal performance. The songs on here where we'd be giving high fives if this was released, you know, on the next Sepultura or Soulfly album. That's I think where you can place them. Probably a bit more extreme than Soulfly. But yeah, I was impressed with this album. On first listen, I thought this is amazing. Second listen, I was like, yeah, this is very good. Third listen, I'm like, yeah, very strong album. But that high that I experienced on the first listen didn't quite get that on the second and third listen. But yeah, I really think that this band don't get enough credit. They're kind of like the whipping boys, aren't they, of extreme metal, you know, the posers. And the fact that they even fell out of love with Deathcore on that 2017 album and didn't really know what their identity was. They were a bit jaded. I think they've rediscovered the zest. And they're back on Century Media as well. So that's probably another reason why other bands hate them. You know, they've been on Century Media, Nuclear Blast. They're probably thinking, why do you get all the big deals with all the most important, or should we say most powerful record labels? And this is the 7th album. They say a cat has 7 lives. I wouldn't say they've used up the 7 lives on this. There's plenty more in the tank.
So not 9 of popular culture then, Kirk?
So now again?
9 lives.
Oh, is it 9 lives? Yeah.
Okay. 2 more.
Still got 2 more.
Where does the 7 lives come from?
I know. You're just seven's used in a lot of things. 7 Gates of Hell or something like that. And
using
7 Voyages of Sinbad. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of sevens used.
We could say that, you know, the 9th album should be the end then. That doesn't make any sense. So we'll not end on that.
It is weird actually why there's 7 years. Like 7 Year Itch. You use the 7 Voyages, 7 Gates of Hell.
Yeah.
7. Why is 7 such a key?
I know.
That's what we should do, a whole episode on the number 7.
Why can't I remember that it's 9 as well?
Yeah, that would help. Anyway, right, we need to score this. As always, we score out of 4 categories. Is it a bill it, a trade it, a stream it, or of course the most important one, which is the highest rating, which is a buy it. Kicking over to Andy, what's your scores on the doors?
Really enjoyed it. I will be streaming this album.
Fair enough. For me, exactly the same. It's stream it because there was plenty of tracks on there, but far too much similarity within those tracks. So there's plenty of songs I did like, enough to stream it, but not enough to buy it. Kirk, to you?
Yeah, I think we're unanimous on this. It's a stream it. On first listen, I was thinking I'd probably buy this, but yeah, I'm going to give it the honourable stream it verdict in this case.
Okay, there you go. Suicide Silence. And remember, you must die. Get a stream it from the A.D.K channel. Now, if you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you on another video sometime very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.